bam.
That's right. I gotta authorize this. There we go.
All right, I am here with Fernando Perdomo. If you don't know who Fernando Perdomo is, you're going to find out. I've known Fernando since our early days in Florida, and both of us have relocated out to Los Angeles. Fernando, thank you for coming and spending some time with me.
Thanks so much, Robbie. I always love hanging with you, and this is a really fun thing because we're always a good hang, and this is pretty much what it's going to be. It's going to be a hang, and you guys are going to get to watch.
So I want to dive into a little bit about what makes you creative. Were you, when you were a kid, drawn more to making music or understanding it?
Well, before I could actually play, I was always obsessed with the process of making music. I'll never forget when I first saw a band play at a place in Miami called Bayside. There was a band called the Rockefellers, and I was just completely enthralled. And then I started going to see shows when I was in middle school, and I was just in. And then I started getting good at music, and obviously, when you get good at something, the obsession begins.
Yeah.
And you know, without being too TMI, my girlfriend in high school was my guitar,
Oh,
and
wow.
I didn't really start chasing girls until after high school. And I was obsessed. I was playing every day, learning as many songs as I could. My high school had a rock ensemble program, so we were doing stuff like Sergeant Pepper as a show, and basically being a full-on cover band, playing, all over town and all over parts of the country. And so I got some stage experience, which was pretty valuable. And then right out of high school, I joined pretty much every band in Miami except for yours. So what
Yes.
the hell?
Well, do you remember the first time music felt like a language you could speak, not just something you could hear?
Oh yeah. Um, it was when I did my first talent show. When I was in seventh grade, I performed Sugar Mountain by Neil Young at
Beautiful.
a talent show with just an acoustic guitar and a harmonica, and I won.
How about
It was
that?
absolutely incredible, and that was one of those moments that pre-cell phone. I hate that I don't have to relish and remember my high prepubescent voice, but it was a great moment because I realized that I being a complete nerd could be cool.
Well,
You know.
what kind of a child were you like outside of making music? What was your
Oh well, I was always I was raised by the boob tube. My family had cable. I can remember our first cable box where we had the actual wired rectangular cable with the push buttons that made a
yeah,
sound.
yeah.
And there's a video of me on YouTube dancing in diapers to MTV playing Heat of the Moment. And I was already obsessed. I mean, I was already emoting. I could barely talk, but I
Yeah.
was already noticing moments where, I put my arms up and went, ah, and my mom was like, wow, you know, and
As you got into playing, what part of your personality did music give you permission to express that wasn't easy for you otherwise?
well, I can't dance at all. So, the fact that I could play guitar, move around on stage, play drums, be an octopus, be a rocktopus. It's pretty cool because I'm pretty awkward when on the dance floor. And another thing that's really interesting is I was unfortunately given a baritone voice, so I can't really wail as a singer, but I can wail on the guitar.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's an incredible thing to be able to have this piece of equipment that could make me a superhero.
Yeah.
Um, there's not a lot of ways to have superpowers, and it's way easier than becoming an athlete or becoming a bodybuilder or becoming a sprinter or a dancer or a gymnast.
Yeah.
Sitting around comfortable with a guitar, that's my sweet spot.
What what
If there's a
emotional
guitar at a if
what
there's a
emotional
guitar at a
state are you
party.
most comfortable, like most creative in? Like what state of being are
Well,
you
I
most?
talk about this all the time. Living in Southern California, it doesn't rain, and I miss those gloomy days where I call them 6-8 days, where you just kind of sit around and become Nick Drake. Nick Drake wouldn't have been Nick Drake if he lived in California.
Right.
There's a certain element of English weather that makes Nick Drake possible. But to me, I really enjoy um, expressing myself. And if the thing that I love the most about music is beauty, so that's why I never really got into what I call cock rock, that whole Kiss thing where it's like riffs, riffs and boogie and masculine sounding stuff.
Yep.
I actually prefer major sevenths and beautiful harmonies and
But could you begrudgingly throw a compliment to a riff where you're like, all right, I might not like that kind of music, but that's a
hey,
great riff.
Hocus Pocus by Focus, one of the greatest riffs of all time.
But
Um,
I don't think
carry
that's in
on,
your realm though.
carry on, Wayward Son. You
Yeah.
know, absolutely. Ooh You by Paul McCartney. My favorite riff of all time, Go Down Gambling by Blood, Sweat and Tears.
Wow. Great.
The opening of No Matter What by Badfinger.
Yep.
Absolutely. That stuff is really important. Um, freaking there's so many. I mean, there's so many great riffs, but to me, what I prefer is writing a beautiful chord progression and figuring out a melody that'll work within those chords. And
Yeah.
also, like my current situation playing with Marshall Crenshaw, there's the old saying, three chords and the truth. I
Yeah.
prefer 30 chords and a bunch of lies.
I love
You
that.
know, yeah, that's really me because honestly, um, there's people that we both love, like Jason Faulkner and Roger Manning and
Yep.
Jellyfish and that whole world, where they never really stayed to three chord rock.
Right.
Todd Rundgren. These are people that all the soft rock people that we love.
Yeah.
Rupert Holmes and Gilbert O'Sullivan. These
Yeah.
are people that explored the chord progression and
Right.
explored what makes the chord progression an art form. Because
Do you think we've lost in some ways? Like if you go back to standards in the early 20th century, people used what I would say is the full set of chords. And then popular music got dumbed down, and then we hear bands like the Lemon Twigs, who we both love,
oh yeah,
who seem to have rediscovered all the chords.
well yeah, that whole Lemon Twigs family. The latest thing they released is their dad, Ronnie D'Addario, just put out an album called "I Could Write," and it's basically a bunch of his songs done by people like Todd Rundgren, and
Awesome.
it's really really cool record. And yeah, I mean, they were raised around Beach Boys, Beatles, Who,
Yep.
all the good stuff, and also their father's music, and their father was totally like an Emmett Rhodes type guy,
Yeah.
and to be raised in that environment, it's great that they didn't become DJs out of spite. They actually picked up the guitar and the drums and keyboards and whatever they play, and they learned all those amazing chords, and they continued the tradition that their father did.
I,
And their father's fantastic.
yeah.
Really, really, really good stuff. But same thing goes with me. My mother, driving around when I was a kid, loved this French composer named Michel Legrand,
Yeah.
and always had the umbrellas, the classic album. There was this the Umbrellas of Cherbourg,
Yeah.
which is an incredible record. Um, there's another one called Legrand Sings, which is a rare record where he's the vocalist, and he was a great scatter and a great like jazz scat guy. And then also Charles Aznavour. She loved French music, and she also loved Pavarotti,
Yeah.
and she loved Latin music. And I grew up around a lot of world music, but she also liked the Beatles, and that was like my big. You know, I tell this to everybody. If you only listen to the Beatles, that's a perfect introduction to everything that's great about music because they included so much of everything from early rock and roll to skiffle,
Yep.
country, show tunes,
Reggae.
classical, reggae, experimental, acid rock, baroque music,
Yeah.
um, and that's a perfect example of a band that okay, so I'm a record producer by trade.
Yes.
And I have a client who is going through a little bit of a crisis, and she was like, "Well, I don't know what genre I am. That song doesn't fit this album. That song can't be on this album." And I said, "What if the Beatles said, Yeah, Eleanor Rigby can't be on Revolver because it's a rock record.
Right.
Or, we can't have Helter Skelter and Julia
Or what if
and
Van Halen said we
Piggies.
can't do Big Bad Bill as Sweet William now?
Exactly. Well, look at Sergeant Pepper. It's got a full-on Indian tune.
Right.
It's got a vaudeville sounding when I'm 64, It's got a song that doesn't even have them on it. Freaking She's Leaving Home, which is just harp, strings,
Yeah.
and just their vocals. But same thing goes with Eleanor Rigby. Same thing goes with Revolution Number Nine, which is music concrete. Same thing goes with Don't Pass Me By, which is country. Same thing goes with there's a lot of times where they
So
they cosplayed,
So let
musically
me ask let
cosplayed.
let me ask you a question because that's a great segue. Why do artists feel not so free to widen the scope of what they do? Why are so many people so intent? Is it just a business model that you have to be one thing? Why are people so afraid to do what Bowie did or anybody that just kept branching outside of what was their
This
style?
is what happened. Labels wanted bands to stay safe and recreate the magic that made their hit.
Yes.
See, the worst thing that can happen to a band is if they have a hit. Because next thing you know, every song they'll turn in and be like, okay, for example, Pilot,
Yep.
Magic, January, it's pretty much the same song, but they're both great.
Yeah.
But still, they kind of kept on trying to capture the magic. And the same thing goes with a lot of bands. It's like, you listen to all of Taylor Swift's music, and there's not a lot of depth stylistically. Nothing against Taylor.
But she did get out of country into more of a pop realm, but it
I know,
wasn't
but
like
so,
she
but
took a left
songwriting
turn.
wise, yeah, but songwriting wise,
Yeah,
stylistically, lyrically, there's not a lot of like depth there.
yeah,
Um, it's that's why it's like people freak out when like Andre 3000 put out that new age flute record.
right.
But you know what though? That's just as crazy as George Harrison putting out electronic sound. You
Sure,
know,
Wonderwall. What?
Wonderwall, like that's just as crazy as when John Lennon started putting out albums of Yoko of just screaming.
Yeah.
That's the
So
thing. It's like
so it's
it's
a
considered a power move to
so
me.
how what piece of advice would you give to an up and coming artist as far as finding quote unquote their sound and yet keeping themselves open enough to
Here's what
expand?
I tell every single person I work with. Make a record you like.
Yeah.
If anybody else likes it, it's a side effect. You know,
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, because there's no worse thing that can happen to an artist than if they like sell out and make it. For example, there's the famous story of how do you do it. So the Beatles, George Martin was not sure about their songwriting, so he found a hit for them. How do you do it? And Brian Epstein said, "The boys write their own music. Absolutely not." And guess what? It became a number one hit for Jerry and the Pacemakers. But imagine if the Beatles had had Love Me Do not be their first hit.
Right.
Imagine if their first hit was written by someone else, and next thing you know, oh boys, we'll just put She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand on the B side. Now you need to record more songs by, other songwriters. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, Beatles, best known for Twist and Shout.
Right.
Beatles, best known for,
I mean, they were a
Please
cover
Mr.
band in
Postman.
Hamburg. I mean, in Hamburg, Germany, they were playing all these, Chuck Berry
Imagine if
covers
the
and stuff.
Beatles' biggest hits were Twist and Shout, Please
Right.
Mr. Postman, Money, Mr. Moonlight,
Right.
freaking all the cover songs. Nothing against Till There Was, my favorite of all of them is Till There Was You
Yeah,
from the
from the
Music
Music
Man.
Man.
But I actually was surprised when I found out that Paul didn't write that because it totally sounds like the same person that wrote And I Love Her.
Yes. Well, he was definitely informed by that kind of music. So let me turn for a minute to being creative. There's a point where when you're a kid, music is compulsive, right? You're just doing it because you can't stop. And at some point it becomes intentional. You want to start working on things, learning about more things. How would you describe that transition for yourself of music going from compulsion, which it probably still is to an extent, to an intentional pursuit?
Hmm. Compulsion to an intentional pursuit. Well, the minute I found out that I could make a living with it and not having to work at the paper,
Yeah.
we both come from a journalistic background and we both used to work at magazine together.
Yep.
I have a degree in journalism, and my mom was one of the founders of the Miami Herald. And
Yep.
I knew that I was always going to have a backup there. But when I got that first paycheck from the Unity Church in Miami, Florida, it's like $30 or something. I was like, wait a minute. I can make music. I can make money with this. And next thing you know, I was playing on big records. I mean, we've both have played with big records and played big artists and stuff. And
Yep.
it's like, man, if you get a good touring gig, you know, I think I heard that each member of Paul McCartney's band makes 10, 15,000 a show.
I heard it
That's a
was a
lot.
flat million a year, just as like a blanket, like,
A
but that was
flat
years ago.
million. A
Yes.
flat million.
Flat
I,
million.
I
You're just
always
on
joke
call.
I always joke. I've got a couple of lottery tickets in my pocket. I always joke. I'm like, I just want a million post taxes.
What
I
would you
could
do with
live.
it? Right now, $1 million in your bank account to fund your dreams. What's the first thing that you put budget towards that you don't
Well,
have budget
first,
for right now?
first of all, I would I would focus. I would be more focused, I think. I work as a record producer, and I love working as a record producer. But I think I would put more focus on my own endeavors, just because I really feel like most of the people that I see that are actually having some major kickback
Yep.
are investing 50,000, 60,000, 10, 20, 100,000 into just one album,
Yeah.
and that gets something because really, it's still a pay to play on a lot of time on a lot of in a lot of ways,
Yep.
but I would definitely invest it in certain artists that I really care about, certain projects that I really care about, and I would also donate a lot of it, honestly, because really, um, for example, when the fires happened, I raised 5,000 with one of my songs that went to rebuilding a lot of my friends' lives. Man, there's a lot of it's a really tough time for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially with the political movements and also with a lot of unrest in the world. And
Yeah.
I feel like if it's put to music, I think music is more important than ever, especially in the music in the schools. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a product of public school music, and I know you're a product of public school music, and
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not.
they're not.
I was never in band in school. I never
Oh,
took
wow.
any
Okay.
courses in
But
music
you did
school.
teach at MI, though.
I did. I was brought in to write curriculum, but I didn't have a music degree or a
Got it.
teaching degree. So once I was in there, I could stay on even after they asked me, "So where's your transcripts?" I was like, "Well, little funny story with that." So you're not a person that went to music school, right?
I tried. I actually, when I went to Miami-Dade Community College,
Right?
which is the only school that gave me a little bit of a little bit of money, I did a dual major in journalism and jazz. And I learned the hard way that jazz school is way different than rock school.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of an issue with the guitar guy at Miami-Dade, and it just didn't work. So I decided to go full on with the journalism, got an AA degree from them, and then that's it. I did learn a little bit of vocabulary from the jazz class, but
Yeah.
it's really not. I ended up when my dad passed away, I ended up kind of focusing on the School of Hard Knocks and playing in five bands and playing at Tobacco Road every week, you
Well,
know?
you obviously came to understand a lot of things about music. I think when there's a certain breed of musician that doesn't want to learn too much because they don't want to quote unquote ruin the magic. How do you keep wonder alive once you understand how things work?
Oh, it's very simple. I avoid written music as much as possible and use my ears 100%.
Yeah.
Nothing will make me play worse than having a chart in front of me. So, like, I'm actually doing a rehearsal tomorrow with an album. I'm for an artist that I'm recording an album with in January, and he's got all these chord charts, and it's like, I find myself trying. I'll get lost because I'll be like, okay, this is repeating, but you gotta be looking because he's got a lot of changes. He's kind of like a Jim Steinman inspired artist. So it's like
Respect.
it's great. It's really fantastic that he's going there. I prefer to learn stuff by ear
Yeah.
because it makes me really feel the music as opposed to
So,
being.
so you don't have your own charting or your own notes that you make for yourself, little
You know
shorthand or
what's
anything?
I'm working on a rock opera album, and I'm doing a
Right,
lot of string and horn arranging, and I'm finding myself completely at a disadvantage because I'll forget to like denote the key.
right.
Everything I usually in C, and it's like, oh, okay, and this is supposed to be in bass clef, or this is supposed to be an alto clef, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ah. So I mean, that's the stuff that I get. I wish I would have gone to school for, but
As you know, I've been writing string and horn charts for the stuff that I've done,
yeah,
and the challenge with that was I never, with my songs, did it measure by measure, where I was like, oh, there's two measures of five there, and I didn't realize that's what how it was looping at the end of the chorus or whatever. So having to take songs that I just knew by heart and I could just look at chords and words and play and go, oh, wait, it's an extra bar there, an extra two bars, or it went for seven, and I have to figure out is that, you know, how does that work out? And working with other players obviously helps that process. But if you're going to write charts for other people and you want them to be legible, it is definitely a pursuit of its own. You are great with utilizing a lot of different sounds in and different guitars and instruments.
yes.
Do you chase sounds or do sounds chase you?
Well, that's a great question because I know we're not supposed to talk about anything that's current because I don't know when this is going to play. But in 2025, I did 12 albums under the Waves title.
Yep.
It's 120 original songs, and it's easy to repeat yourself musically and repeat yourself sound wise. So
Right.
I found myself buying a lot of cool gear that would inspire different things. And actually, right now not only has a couple pieces of gear inspired certain sounds, it's inspired next year's 12 albums, which is
Awesome.
Clouds,
Yep.
because I've gotten into granular reverb and I've gotten into vibrato
Yep.
and ambient sounds.
Yep.
And truly, it's an incredible world. Yoga music,
All that.
new age.
Yeah.
And I love it. And it's also something that I could also perform live, which I'm going to be doing in New Zealand soon. But the thing about it is, um, I love it. Well, I have a lot of guitars,
Yes.
and they're not a lot of cheap guitars. So no, I know people that have the same amount of guitars I have, but they're all like $10,000 guitars. I'm the guy that loves the $200, $150 special.
Yep.
But every time I get a new instrument, it'll inspire a part of me because it's a new world.
Yep.
And I love that. Also keyboards and synth sounds and pedals
So it's
and
constant
plugins even.
discovery. Yeah.
Plugins even.
Yes.
Every time I get a new plugin, it's like, ooh, this is a new hat, a new suit,
So let me flip the script. What's a non-musical influence that has most influenced your music
That's a great question. I guess
besides cafe con leche?
well, aside from food, women, um, um, uh, comfort, um, nostalgia, history.
Yep.
Um, I've even been inspired by certain obsessions I have. Like I have a little bit of a interest in tragedies and plane crashes and stuff like that. I don't know. It's something weird.
Okay.
It's I feel like I could fly better if I know that what it takes for a plane to go down. Sorry.
That's a great question. I'm going to keep peppering you with a couple of
No, no,
questions
no. But
because
there's more. There's
no,
more.
no, please.
There's a great word called fission or something, which is the actual name, the actual technical name for goosebumps.
Okay.
I love that feeling.
Yep.
Um, I love travel. I love driving. I feel like my favorite moments of listening to music are always either driving or on a plane.
Hmm.
I love
So off the top of
food.
your head, what's a great driving record, not just for you, but that you'd
Tame
recommend to
Impala,
anybody on a long
Tame
drive?
Impala, Inner Speaker.
Really?
Automatic Man, first album. Um, that's a great one. That's a really, really great one.
So if somebody didn't know anything about progressive rock or anything like that, they just needed something great to drive to. Those would be two of your
Those
go-tos.
are two of my go-tos. Another album that's great is Todd Rundgren's Utopia, the first album. Love driving to that record. Um, uh, Gino Vanelli's Nightwalker.
Oh, that's an expected choice, knowing how big of a Geno fan you
I
are.
know, but Gino is truly my if somebody says, "Oh, what's your guilty pleasure?" Because they when well, there's a lot of interesting guys like Gino Vanelli and Rupert Holmes that their hits don't represent
Oh
the
yeah,
breadth of their work
sure.
and the absolute genius. Um,
So it's only guilty if you think that it's some cheesy guy and you don't understand the depth of talent. Once you do, that's not guilty at all. I mean, I have no guilty pleasures. There's none, nothing I feel guilty for. If it's a pleasure for me, it's a pleasure, you know? But I
yeah,
understand other people, they might say, "Oh, you really like the Spice Girls?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love the Spice Girls. Are you kidding?" So,
you know
Fernando,
what?
who's your favorite Spice Girl?
Well, as a woman, I always loved Ginger Spice, but talented wise, Sporty Spice has got the
Yep,
best voice.
she's got the voice.
Now, funny enough is that Ginger stole the best album title I could ever have. She
Really?
had an album called Schizophonic.
Oh, I like that.
I know, but the album isn't schizophrenic,
Sadly.
sadly. So that would have been the greatest album title for
Uh,
anybody, like any
uh,
for you or me.
Jerry Halliwell, if you're out there, you need to do an album with Fernando called Schizophonic 2 and really go. So here's another question
I
for
wonder
you.
how she's doing. I haven't checked up on
Oh,
her in the
she
last 20
I think
years.
she does a lot of charity stuff and whatnot, but
That's
you know,
cool.
I'm still hoping for a reunion. Hey, a man can
Hey,
dream.
hey, there was they had some really, really good songs.
Yeah,
And funny enough, I've got a double connection with them. Dave Way, who did the Echo in the Canyon soundtrack, which I
yeah,
played on, he mixed Wannabe. And my friend Sean Lee played guitar on their album.
cool.
Sean Lee from Young Gun Silver Fox,
Wow.
back when he was a young up and comer American guitar player in the 90s in England. And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I played wah wah on what's that song?
Say you'll be there.
No, no, on the Spice Up Your Life."
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. A great song. So what mistake taught you more than any success?
Well, that's a great question.
I'm trying to line them up for you.
That's a great, great question. I like to say that my disappointment to inspiration converter is the best in the business
I like that.
because I personally have been so close to the top of Everest like four times, and like full on like this is going to be the rest of my life.
Yep.
You know, almost signed twice to Atlantic, actually signed to Geffen with another band that I decided not to be part of, and then I watched them, get dropped and shelved. Another artist that I was with that was signed to the Starbucks label that ended up going nowhere. Many times where it's like, oh yeah, the Echo in the Canyon thing, where it really it was amazing, but it's not what we expected. I mean, I really was expecting more from that.
Yeah.
Um, and every single time that some of that stuff happens, I bounce back. Like I've
Yeah.
got a band right now called Broken Sound that
Yep.
came from the ashes of a band called Open Sound. And I thought I had met a singer-songwriter that was absolutely perfect because he was the singer I could never be, the lyricist I could never be, and all around a cool guy. We made an album, and by the time the album came out, he was off in another direction and left. And I um I was shattered for a second, but then I said, you know what? I like the drummer. Let's start a band,
Yeah.
And I always do that. So it's like, um, I guess it's the musical equivalent of, mopping stuff underneath the couch instead
Yeah.
of, dealing with it. I just move on and I make the old lemons in the lemonade because
Yeah.
especially at my age, 45, I can't just take a year off to grieve something.
Right.
So I just move on and I also have a very low expectation of my sales and my own personal career arc. You know, I'm one of those people that doesn't mind having, 6,000 fans or whatever, technically. I'd rather have 100 real fans than have 1 million fake fans.
Yeah.
I don't care about views. I don't care about listener counts. I don't care about followers. Really, every sale is a small victory,
Yep.
and the real success is when I get emails from people saying my music helped them, or if I get emails from people that I look up to praising me.
Yeah. It sounds like your
And it's happened a
definition of
lot.
success has evolved since you started, which I think it does for all of us because we
Yeah.
think all these things are going to happen, or if I just do that or whatever. And we look back on the path. And so when you look back on your path, how do you view your success so far in a rear view mirror kind of way?
Well, okay, I'm going to backtrack for 1 second.
Please.
As a not typically attractive, overweight, hairy, not necessarily model looking guy, I never expected to be on a poster. I never expected to be on the cover of Teen Beat. I didn't move to LA expecting to become Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue
Right.
or, or Justin Bieber. I came out to LA with my goal of being somebody like John Bryan or Jason Faulkner or Roger Manning, where you listen to a record and you're like, that guitar player is great. Who's that? Oh, it's Paul Fernando. Oh, who's that bass player? Oh, who produced this? Oh, it's that Fernando guy.
Right.
Same way that when I hear something that's produced by John Bryan or Jason Faulkner and it catches my ear and I'm like, oh, yeah, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
because I am a liner notes freak. And since I was a kid, I knew who Bob Ludwig was before I knew what mastering was.
Interesting.
So the thing about it is, I do respect the people behind the window, behind the glass.
Yeah.
I do have a high regard for people that are surprised every time I contact them. You're like, oh wow, I can't believe you know who I am. It happens
Wow.
all the time.
Yeah.
And to some that might be considered dorkiness, but to me it's just part of my inspiration.
Yeah.
Because really when it comes down to it, I love everything about records. I love everything about music. I love when I listen to music, I'm not just listening to the lyrics or the beat.
Right.
Like, I'm listening to every aspect of the production, which could be a little painful,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the music that's successful that I feel isn't
Right.
up to snuff.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time where people are just being lazy.
Yeah.
And mechanized production is drives me crazy. Drum machines aren't my thing. I'm
Right.
not into repetitive dance music and stuff like that. I
Right.
respect the art. I just don't like it.
You don't want to be at a four on the floor EDM dance party. That's for about 30 seconds and then you're done.
Yeah, that's hell. I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, I love Miami every time I go there, but it's like unfortunately the music that thrives there is the music that sells booze,
Right.
and my music was not selling booze.
Well, let me turn to how you became the artist that you are. I think there's certain people, and I always go to David Bowie with this, that their sense of self-permission was so free that it gave other people this kind of, I used self-permission. So what artist helped give you the self-permission to become the musician you are?
Todd Rundgren,
Todd Rundgren.
my not just my favorite artist of all time, my career template because Todd Rundgren, you know, even during his most successful period as Todd Rundgren, was producing records.
Yeah.
You know, the same year that he had a number 1 hit with "Hello It's Me," he's producing the New York Dolls. He's working with the band. He's working with Cheap Trick, Hall and
Yep.
Oates, XTC, Meatloaf. Made
Yep.
millions producing Meatloaf,
Yeah.
and also playing on records. And also developing music equipment, um, being a creative force. And also finding time to indulge in the rock and roll lifestyle.
He
But
sounds like he looks like and sounds like a guy that continuously follows his passion wherever it leads them, even if the audience isn't totally on board. So is passion something you feel or something you practice?
Passion is something I practice and feel. But back to Todd, you know, he made a lot of fans with Hello, It's Me,
Yeah,
and then immediately dropped them with the Utopia project and with Wizard
right.
of True Star.
Yeah.
He made a lot of fans with Bang on the Drum All Day, and then he immediately dropped them with Acapella and Nearly Human.
So
Todd,
not on the surface a great business decision, but as an
no,
artist, exactly what he wanted to do.
no, but you know what? The fact that Todd has stuck to his guns
Hmm.
is why Todd is still playing theaters instead of the local chili cook-off.
Yeah,
He's not a play your hits and you know, he's not the put on the leather pants, turn on the smoke machine and play the hits type of guy. When you go see Todd Rundgren, you see whatever the fuck he wants, sorry, whatever the hell he wants to play.
yeah,
And he'll throw in a little medley of his hits.
right.
And I remember that when I opened up for Todd, he wasn't even doing Hello, It's Me. And he would do I Saw the Light and he says, You guys want a little candy? You know, again,
Yeah,
Todd is a Todd is Todd.
yeah.
I am Fernando. You know, I had a lot of people tell me I was an idiot for putting out 12 albums, and I'm like,
No way.
no, I've become a better musician playing on 120 songs this year.
Oh yeah,
I've become a better writer. I've become a more interesting musician in general. So it's like I'm excited to see where Clouds is going to take me.
yeah,
I'm excited to see where the rock opera is going to take me. I'm excited to see where I end up writing. I could totally see myself make a prog record because one of the things about Clouds is that it's not really involving drums
right.
as of now, but I love drumming, so I could see myself just, do a prog album in a few months and
Yeah.
say, okay, this is my prog album for the
Should
year.
get it out of you.
I'll get it out of my system and also rock out a little bit. Another thing is about passion.
Yeah.
It's the whole Neil Young versus Yngwie Malmsteen thing. Well, maybe Yngwie's really good.
Both have passion in what they
Both have
do.
passion. Like, okay, maybe like Neil Young versus some of the Instagram guitar players that you'll see that can play a million notes and they're tapping up a storm and shredding. You know, I'll take Neil Young playing one note with passion
Yeah.
over any of those guitar players playing 64th notes,
Yep.
at 221 BPM just for speed. Same
And
thing goes with Carlos Santana.
I would put Neil in a category like Todd, where he took left turns and just said, "Follow me or don't follow me. I don't care. I'm doing the shocking pinks. I'm doing.
Yeah, well, he got sued by his own label for not sounding like Neil Young.
That's
You
amazing.
know,
How often does
uh,
that happen, right?
yeah, I know. And I was just watching a video about America and how America, like people were really fooled. They really thought "Horse with No Name" was a Neil Young song, and then it took over the number one spot from "Heart of Gold."
Interesting.
Which is really funny because there's a few cases where some bands are noting that AI clones of them have taken them over on Spotify, like
Right.
King Gizzard.
Right.
But check this out. Um, there's a few artists that I've found that are not technically proficient at all, but there's passion in everything they do.
Yeah.
You know, no one could say that Nick Cave is an incredible technician.
Right.
But an ex-girlfriend of mine took me to a Nick Cave show, and oh my God, everything that came out of that guy's mouth hit me in the heart and destroyed me.
Nice.
I felt the pain. I
Yeah.
felt the suffering, you know.
Yeah.
Even more, check this out. Like, Tom Waits,
Yeah.
Leonard Cohen,
Yeah.
these are not,
Bob Dylan.
yeah, Bob Dylan. Well, here's the thing. Growing up being obsessed with Paul McCartney, I could never sing along with him, so I thought my voice was broken. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a singer. But you know what? Discovering people with great baritones and going, wow, there's something to the warmth of these singers, that I
Yeah.
really, really love. You know, Nick Drake, Gordon Haskell. There's so many incredible like low singers that it's like,
It's that
it's a
the
thing now.
character.
It's a character voice.
Yeah.
And a character voice sometimes could be a really effective thing,
Yeah.
especially if it's a molasses voice,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of great power pop singers that don't have any balls. They're just very uh, uh, articulate and in tune and high, but you know, there's I bet that's somewhere there's a great singer that I wish I could be, that wishes they could be like me.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, I've got a tune falsetto that I could do, but I can't hit anything chest voice. Like for example, like this rock opera, it's like I've got a lot of tenor parts that I just can't do, so I can't even do the demos. I have to speed my voice up.
Mm.
But it's just like, you know, man, I always loved like Dennis DeYoung,
Yeah.
but there's no warmth there. He can be like, Babe and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but
Sure.
it's not traditional warmth.
But does it have to be? Would a grittier singer have worked in that stuff? It's kind of that those songs have more of kind of almost
Babe, I'm
a show
leaving.
tune feeling. Yeah, but it's almost more theatrical with
When I
his
make a
voice the
million
way it
dollar,
is.
when I make $1 million, I'm gonna pay Tom Waits to cover Babe.
That's that I'd like to hear. Let me ask you a question. What do people assume about you that isn't true?
They assume I don't sleep, but every night I get 6 to 7 hours of good sleep.
6'7", 6'7". Hey, sorry.
Oh, stop that! Stop being so damn hip.
So, what do you hope never changes about you as an artist?
I hope I never slow down.
Good.
I hope I never have a physical defect that keeps me from being able to make as much music as I do.
Yeah.
I would hate that. I hope that I never find one thing and stick to it, because
Yep.
honestly, I would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
The whole concept of playing the same 10 songs for a whole year.
Right.
eh, Even if the crowd's going crazy and singing every word, and
So you're
your
saying
hand.
if you had an album and you had a hit and it hit radio and you had to go and tour for a year playing that song and the songs from the record that people knew, and you were selling records and selling merch and it was building excitement for your next
Well,
thing.
I see it with Marshall. I see
Yeah.
it with Marshall. He has to play someday, some way,
Yeah.
but it's not even in his top 20 best songs.
Okay.
It's a good song,
Yeah.
and he loves it, and he loves what happened with it. But man, I see there's a little bit of boredom there. It's just there. He loves it, but it's like,
At least he has all these other great songs. If you're a one-hit wonder that really has the one song and you're going out and playing something where you're just getting up for a couple and doing your song, at least you have the song.
hey, look, if there's one song that could pay for the rest of my life so I can make the music I want to make,
Right.
hell yeah. My God, man. I mean, I have to work my ass off to make rent.
Yep.
If I wasn't in that position, ooh, man, I could
I
make an
feel you.
album a day.
Right. I
But
feel you.
really, when it comes down to it, I'm never happier than I am with a guitar in my hand.
Yep.
Never happier I am than when an album comes in from the manufacturer and I'm holding it and I'm going, I made this.
I love that.
I made this. Um, that's what really inspires me. That's what inspires my creativity, is knowing that I could pull something out of thin air and just say, here it is.
Yep.
Here's my new music. Do you like it? Oh well, I love it. That's all that matters,
And the feeling now of putting it online and anybody in the world can listen is still amazing to us that come from CDs and cassettes and,
Hey, I've got friends that were in bands that were signed that when they got dropped, they broke up because they're like, what are we going to do? Sell our crap out of our car now?
right.
We were on freaking Warner Brothers. What are we doing? Now it's like when you pull when you pull that out of the equation and you're in control of every aspect of your career,
Yep.
that's that's magic, man.
It's freedom. And I remember a guy you and I both know, Arlen Files
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Natural Causes. He did
yeah,
a great record with Tom Dowd at,
yeah,
in the studio. I went and visited actually. It was like really cool. And then the Island shelved the record, Troubled
yeah,
Monkey. And it was a
yeah.
really good record, but they shelved it. And for whatever reason, he couldn't even access it for his own use. And that was, his whole life at that point. And then you have all this music that you just made. Tom Dowd produced all this, and you can't do anything with it. I think those kind of things really hurt artists. Whereas being in a position that you and I are in, I released 10 albums of my own this past year and have more music coming. We don't stop or have any reason to narrow our broadband, or narrow our width if we want to do this or that. If I wanted to do a instrumental piano record and then turn into a power pop thing, then turn into I could do it all because there's no limit or no one saying no or that's not going to sell or you know. I
I
want to
have
turn.
a
Yeah.
I have a friend who was in on a major label, and he made an incredible record that almost came out, and I was like, hey, what's keeping you from putting out that album? He said, $100,000 or something that he owes the label.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's why people re-record those albums,
Right.
But it's like, oh,
Taylor
you
Swift to
know,
John Fogerty or Def Leppard, record your album note for note and you put it out as your own version.
exactly.
So let me turn to concerts for a moment because one of the things that I love is talking about live shows that we've seen and experienced. What was the first concert that changed your understanding of what music could be?
King Crimson,
How old were you?
1995, 14 years old, double trio Thrack tour.
Wow.
That rearranged my guts.
How did you understand that at the time, or were you just absorbing it,
I
going, "Oh
was
my gosh"?
obsessed with King Crimson, and it's funny. I didn't get like the Elephant Talk era, the Discipline era, but I really got that Thrack album, the Vroom album.
What
You
was it
know,
about those that you were able to get that those other albums now that you've looked back and you've
well, the
listened to them?
guitar tones were muscular again. There was something chintzy about the whole Roland JC 120 sound that was going on. Which I've funny enough now with Clouds,
Yeah,
I'm exploring that. But
interesting.
freaking uh, and I love Mate Kudasai and stuff like that. But man, that Frack album was so cool, and then seeing a band with two guitars, two bass players, and two drummers.
And you knew the music before you went to the show, so you knew what you were going to hear.
And I was blown apart. And that show was absolutely life-changing to me.
Wow.
And having Adrian as a friend and naming my son after him,
Yep.
it's a big time, lifelong. Talk about that type of impact, and that all goes back to that night in 2005, 1995,
Yep.
at the Sunrise Musical Theater.
Yep.
It was just absolutely incredible. Um,
What's
Seeing the
another show from back then that you still talk about to this day?
Tori Amos,
Mm. What?
1997, at the Fillmore in Miami Beach. And Josh Clayton Felt of School of Fish opened, and he was amazing.
Wow.
And then Tori made me cry.
Yeah. Was it a
You know,
particular song or just the whole show welled up in you?
Winter,
Mm.
uh, Winter.
That the
So
first time you cried from a live show?
yes,
Was that the last, or was there other times where you were
I've
brought to
cried. I've cried
tears?
at other shows. Yeah, look, like that. The visceral reaction to music is so interesting. Chills, anxiety,
Yeah.
tears.
Yep.
You know, some music makes you feel sexy. Some music makes you feel vulnerable. Some music really scares the crap out of you.
Was there music when you were young that seemed kind of forbidden or private to you, where it was just like a,
Oh well, growing up in a Catholic Cuban Catholic upbringing,
yep,
anything sex related or drug related I would have to talk over those lyrics when I heard listen to them with my mom in the room, because
Yeah.
oh God forbid that she ever hears that.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like there's a little bit of that, but really, the most forbidden thing about music was at the time was profanity,
Yeah.
you know. And I remember being in high school and getting into like, for example, Jagged Little Pill,
Yeah.
you know, and not being able to, crank up You Ought to Know
Yeah.
because of a certain part of the song.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that, I mean, there's no forbidden music to me, you know.
Just being careful around your mom, right?
Yeah, and
But
and what's
would
funny is my mom's been gone now for oh my God, she's been gone now for 14 years, and I still feel weird every time that like I would hate for her to ever find out that I ever smoked pot,
right.
I would hate for her to um feel I would my biggest fear was for her to be embarrassed by me.
Interesting.
So, you
Well, for
know,
what it's worth, I think she'd be so proud of you and your work ethic, your output, the connections you've made. Just for what it's worth, I think she would have tremendous pride in you.
you knew her, so
And I'll tell her
she
that the
was
pot smoking was me. I made him do it.
yeah, exactly. I never inhaled.
So talk about live concerts. How did MTV or late night shows or concert broadcasts on
Oh,
TV shape your sense of what music was supposed to look like?
that's a good one. Okay, so I grew up again MTV, but
Yeah.
I was in high school and I really got into alternative music. But unfortunately, all the shows were beyond my bedtime.
Mm,
And I luckily was a tech savvy kid who had a VCR. And this is actually one of the best stories I'll tell.
okay.
Also, I was poor. Didn't really have a lot of money growing up for brand new CDs. So that's how I got into record collecting because I realized I could go to the flea market and pick up, 10 records a week for
Right.
10 bucks
Yep.
or, sometimes five.
Yep.
And that's how I found my music. But then I discovered the rentable VHS cassettes at the Blockbuster with concerts.
Ah,
Delicate Sound of Thunder, Live at Pompeii, Pink Floyd,
right.
Help, Hard Day's Night, Utopia, Evening with Utopia. There was a really cool Fleetwood Mac one from 1983. There was a cool Fleetwood Mac one from 1988. There was REO Speedwagon High Infidelity concert, and I would just tape them off from one VHS to another.
Awesome.
And then here was a pivotal day in my life, and I think I forgot exactly what day it was, but it was 1989. I think it was March 1989. VH1 had an all-day Paul McCartney day, and I popped in an 8-hour video cassette, and that was what got me in the Wings.
Interesting.
I was 8 years old, and that's when I first saw clips from Wings Over America,
Hmm.
and I wanted to be Jimmy McCulloch. And that's why my first electric was an SG. That's why I wanted to, that was my template, and I've gone on to work with Denny Seiwell, which is really amazing,
Totally.
because he's, even though he wasn't on Wings Over America, there was also the video for My Love and Mary Had a Little Lamb and
Yeah.
Live and Let Die. And, I really got into the Red Rose Speedway album and Wildlife albums.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, one of my first bands, we used to do Wildlife live in Miami. And, freaking Denny's one of my best friends now. So there you go.
There you go. So, if you could go back to a concert that you experienced, not to relive it, but to understand it, now that you have all of the knowledge that you do, to go back and kind of see it with a more modern eye, what concert would you go back and see?
Oh my God, all of them.
All of them, yeah, just to
All
kind
of
of see
them.
and be like, oh, that's what he was doing on the guitar or whatever, rather than just being
Okay, okay.
overwhelmed.
One of the first concerts I went to was actually two of them. I went to go see Rite of Strings, which was Al Di Meola, John-Luc Ponty, and Stanley Clark,
Wow.
and at the 75% empty Night Center.
Wow.
And it was amazing. They said, come up, everybody, because there's
Yeah.
only 100 people there.
Wow.
And it was absolutely mind blowing. Another one was at the Gusman. It was Guitar Summit 95, and it was Leo Kottke, Joe Pass,
Mm.
Paco de Lucia, and Paco Pena.
Wow.
And that was mind blowing.
I bet.
But
Wow.
I didn't understand what the hell was going on, especially Leo Kottke. And I was just like mesmerized.
That's awesome. And now when you listen to those artists, you have a, a little better of an understanding of what's going on without actually necessarily clinically knowing, right?
I have to thank so many people for opening my mind because one of the biggest issues I'm having with like my own son and with other people that are really young is that they're not doing as much exploratory listening as they should.
Why is
And
that, do you think? Why do you think
well, a
curiosity
lot
is
of it is
taken?
because they're only listening to whatever TikTok throws them, and it's whoever has the money to buy the ads. You
But there's a
know,
curiosity that kept you going to record stores or going and searching or
still,
whatever. What
still,
is
I'm discovering stuff daily.
Yeah,
And I'm
is that
discovering
just
stuff that's going
innate in
on.
you, curiosity, or is that something that can be built in somebody that doesn't seem to have it?
Well, so there's a few of my clients that complain that they're working with a producer who's not in it. What do you mean you don't know who Jay Dilla is? What do you mean you don't listen to what do you mean you don't listen to hip hop? What do you mean you don't listen to you don't know who Geese is? And I'm like, okay, I'll find out who Geese is. I'll listen to Jay Dilla. I'll listen to
Yeah,
stuff. I will find out, and I will give it a damn shot, and I will give it my attention,
yeah,
and I will go for it. And you know what? I will find, even if it's the most minuscule thing, that will inspire me. I'm always listening to stuff that people like. I check out like guys like Anthony Fantano and say, okay, well, what's hip right now,
right.
and what's in. And you know what's funny? I'll find out that they're stealing from the stuff I love.
How
Charlie
about that?
XIX. I had no idea. Charlie XYX or whatever. Her big song samples Todd Rundgren.
Amazing.
I checked out Jay Dilla's album called what was it called? Donuts.
Okay.
The first thing you hear is "Worst Band in the World" by 10cc. A song that's completely based on that, literally to the point where they sued him.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, all right. You know what? Behind every creative person is a nerd like me.
And it's kind of a double-edged sword because on one hand, write something original, won't you? And on the other hand, how would anybody in that realm ever hear 10cc if it
I
wasn't
don't believe
sampled?
in collage art. I believe in making your own music, but you know what? If that's what it takes, I get it.
Yeah.
But really, when it comes down to it, I like people that come up with their own thing. Like I just discovered this artist named Laura Snowden, not related to the other Snowden,
Okay.
and she is a classically trained guitar player who trained with Julian Bream, and she has a thick British accent and a little wispy voice, and she realized that her voice best works when she's speaking.
Interesting.
So she'll be playing the most complex classical guitar, and she's just talking. And it's kind of like this Laurie Anderson type thing with a heavy British accent.
And it
And
works.
it's check out this song called The Dragon's Lair.
Will do.
It is the heaviest thing I've heard this year, and it's classical guitar, upright bass, and talking.
Wow.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
There's the
Because
goosebumps coming back.
literally, the first thing she does is she goes, and she goes, "Hello," and that literally, that I'm not kidding. I could play the whole song right now. It's
Wow.
just like it's so intense, and I've never heard anything like it,
I love
and it
that.
makes
And
me so happy.
the fact that there can be new things and you can stumble across be like, I've never heard anything like this. So let me
Yeah,
ask, you're a guy that to me has such an encyclopedic knowledge of music. Like if I was on, I'm a guy that a lot of people would call as their lifeline on a music trivia show.
yeah,
You'd be the guy I'd call.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Don't
I
know
know,
crap about history, but I could tell you who the
well,
third guitar player in James Gang was.
I know you can. So here's an interesting question. What are some albums that you've loved for a long time that the production is terrible, but the music just it just has something for you? But yeah, you acknowledge that it's just not great production.
Oh man, bad production could ruin a record for me.
It can, but what's a record that you love production aside? And I'm going to give you one for me. I love the third Zebra record, 3.5.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people, maybe it was two, whatever it was, but I met Randy Jackson once and I told him that. He's like, that's my favorite too. I'm like, at least the guy in the band feels the same way that I do. But production wise, a lot of things, especially in the 80s,
Martin Newell, the greatest living Englishman.
the greatest
Um,
living Englishman.
it's an album produced by Andy Partridge, and it's sadly a drum machine record. But I love the drum machine on it. For some
Interesting.
reason, I hate drum
That's a
machines.
lot.
I think it might even be a drum pad, but it's really well done. But man, that record, I would love to have him in the studio and just redo it. Um, there's an album called Plastic Earth by what was his name? Oh God, oh no, oh no. Hold on, Plastic Earth. It was a record I discovered on mp3.com. Remember
Oh,
mp3.com?
I do.
Yes.
So how about here's a similar question. What's a band, or better yet, an album that you dismissed when you were younger that now you love? When you were younger, for whatever reason, you were just whatever, and now it's one of those that you love.
Edit, edit, snip. Another album with weird production that I absolutely love. Dave Dill, Plastic Earth. It's a four-track album,
Okay.
and it's obvious four-track album, but it's amazing, absolutely mind-blowing. It's one of those things where it's like you listen to Todd Rundgren's Something Anything, and you're like, why didn't he get a drummer?
Yeah.
That there's some drumming on there that I remember playing the record for my favorite, my best friend in Miami is drummer. He's like, that's the worst drumming I've ever heard on a major label album. I'm like, I never even noticed.
Yeah.
But the Dave Dill record is such a four-track record, and it's like, man, if that album was the demos to an album that was done right by like John Bryan
Yeah.
producing, that would be the album that we all talk about. But it's you put it on and it's like okay, the fidelity is it's a lo-fi, it's a
Right.
no-fi recording,
Right.
but it's kind of like a no-fi prog. Um, it's an album that shaped me because it's a prog pop power pop record
Yeah.
by this guy in Rhode Island, and it's freaking incredible. But it's recorded on a four track.
There's a guy that I love, David Garza, who's a very prolific songwriter out of Austin, and I believe he spent some time out here. But
Yeah,
he put out all these albums and tapes on homemade CDs called Summer Songs One, Two, Three, and there were songs off of those that I loved that were obviously four-track recordings or really not well recorded, but the vibe. There's a song called "There Go the Weirdos" that
yeah,
would be like one of my favorite songs of his, and it was very obviously recorded as lo-fi as possible. But when you capture a vibe, it kind
yeah.
of
You
transcends
know
that,
what's
right?
funny? Bad production to me is overproduction.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
could. There's records that I can't listen to because they're too pristine. There's a joke somebody made when they looked at my record collection. They're like, "Were you in a coma from '87 to '92?" And I'm like, "Yeah, those are the drum machine years. Those are the years where everybody had that gated snare,
Yeah,
and everybody had you built their songs on sequencers, and
yep,
everything's just repetitive garbage." And honestly, I'd rather hear bedroom recordings by Nick Drake or Judy Sill, literally voicemails from
yeah,
people. I'd rather hear that than something that was obviously pasteurized to death.
yeah,
Like, man, there's nothing more excruciating than hearing great albums by people during the DX7 years, That's what
sure.
see, that's one of the things that like
No, as a keyboard player, I'm with you because I have the opposite. Like I love soul, funk, jazz, all these artists, and as soon as you hit 80, 81, and everybody started getting the DX7s and stuff, Bob James, all these records, and they'd have some great players on it, but the sounds were, you know,
GRP records or whatever. But check this out. Check this out. John Lennon dies 1980,
yep.
and he became the legendary Beatle because he never got to make that shitty 1986 album with the rapping and the yeah, I could totally see him devolving into a cheeseball guy by 87.
But he never hit disco because a lot of bands, like Rolling
He
Stones
was
had
on he
Miss
was on
You.
break. He was raising Sean.
Yeah.
He
So
would have made a disco record in 77 if he wasn't raising Sean. But he was on he was doing a full-on comeback. And I think his 1987 record would have been 10,000 times worse than Press to Play. you know,
I'm not
because
going to disagree.
he would have devolved and he'd become this like kind of, cheesy. Nothing against John, he was brilliant, but I could totally see him making like a Sun City type record, you know.
I wonder what guys like Hendrix would have done through the 80s, you know?
Well, Hendrix would have sounded like an Automatic Man. That's the joke about Automatic Man to me is that this is the record Hendrix would have made if he would have made it to 76.
Yeah, right. So,
He
and
was about to work with Miles Davis when he died.
I know it's tragic. I think Miles was at his funeral and they had a much deeper friendship than people assume. Quickly talking about the 80s, there are certain bands that changed their style or sound going into the 80s and had a period in the 80s that was unique. I'll talk about Yes, 90125 versus the
Yeah,
Yes album
yeah,
or anything earlier. That was a huge leap. The Police, Ghost in the Machine,
yeah,
huge leap from Outlandos to Amor.
yeah,
Rush with Signals, Grace Under Pressure, Power Windows, to me, three
yeah,
of their greats.
yeah.
What are other bands that you felt hit the 80s and did a good transition, or conversely, hit the 80s and sucked the chuck?
Oh man. Well, there's a lot of bands that broke up at the right time, like Gentle Giant, and didn't make that crappy '80s record.
Yeah,
There's some good moments, but Renaissance, Camera, and Timeline, that was a rough transition trying to, perm the hair, put
yep.
the shave the beardy guys, and like make new wave music.
A guy like McCartney made great hits in the
Yeah.
80s that weren't so far from his
Oh
70s
man, I
hits.
was recently listening to Pipes of Peace. That record's brilliant,
Yeah.
and there's actually great moments on Press to Play. And I love, 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 love Flowers in the Dirt.
Yes.
Yeah, Off the Ground is great too.
So he was able
But
to kind of hit the 80s and not pick up different elements of what was going on that was, what would the
oh
current
yeah, I mean
sound was.
George Harrison, Cloud Nine's great too.
Yeah.
Actually, I was checking out. There's this great guy online who did a 5 hour deep dive into Ringo Starr,
Wow.
and he made a lot of really strange albums in the
Yes.
'80s. Um, but I mean, man, there's some really weak sauce stuff that you'll hear from Lou Reed. There's some really weak stuff, weak ass stuff that you'll hear from Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay,
Well,
even
when was the album with the Daniel Lanois with Most of the Time and Man in the Long
oh,
Black
that's
Coat?
that's '94.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's '94, '95, '96.
That was cool.
You want to hear something rough? Joni Mitchell, Dog Eat Dog, with Thomas Dolby.
Hey,
That's Joni, the Earth Queen, with her little dulcimer, trying to make a Laurie Anderson record.
tricky.
It's tough.
So that would be hitting the 80s the wrong way.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of people hit the '80s the wrong way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really rough cases where, especially prog people, were trying to. I mean, Big Generator is unlistenable to me. I'm
Really?
sorry. Yeah, there's some good moments, but generally, it's so shiny.
It is. I mean, it was definitely trying to be 90125 Part 2. I always loved 9012 Live. That version of Hold On
Yeah,
is
yeah, it's good.
incredible.
But hey, for example, Bill Bruford's Simmons kit with when he did Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe.
Yeah.
And it's like that shotgun snare. It's not my thing.
No.
I can. There's electronics rarely inspire me when it comes to drums.
Right.
I like the sound of real drums. I like the sound of real guitars, basses, keyboards, vocals, synthesis. Even though the AI thing is surprising,
Yeah.
sometimes surprising,
And I haven't
but
asked you about AI at all. How about that for an interview?
that's fine. You know what, man? It's the inevitable. It's the inevitable, and if it's put into use by the right people and for creative purposes, great. But the whole thing about having somebody that's tone deaf that has no musical knowledge to be able to create a song,
It's tricky.
that unfortunately makes people like us that spent 4 decades, you know,
Learning your
becoming who
craft.
we are, learning your
Yeah.
craft. It For some people, it's going to be a death blow. For me, it's just inspires me to up my game.
Yeah. And there's a difference, I would say, between making product and making art. And art can only come from the artist. What's your mind creates, what you have to say. If you want to make product, that's another thing. I've seen people do versions of their songs with AI making it a female singer
Yeah,
or
yeah. Oh no, 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 no.
or
I've AI actually has inspired a whole album I'm putting out this year.
awesome.
I was on tour with Marshall Crenshaw and I started putting in my songs and typing in soul.
Yeah,
And I found out that a lot of my songs work really well with R&B. So I've hired a singer named Broadway B, who's an incredible singer, and we're making a soul record.
I love it.
All my songs,
But
all
you're
my
hiring him to sing it, not having AI sing it. But AI gives
no,
you the idea, then you're like,
no,
all right, now let's make it
but
with real people.
I am enjoying some of like horn charts and stuff that they're creating.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool stuff because it's
really
stuff that
cool.
I can't really do.
All the funk
Uh,
covers of metal songs, I would go see a live review of that stuff, which
yeah,
is the
man.
one place that AI is going to fall short is bringing it to the stage,
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, AI girlfriends are not my thing.
Not the same.
Um, I got 5 minutes, man.
So
I have a
let
2 p.m. I have a 2 p.m. session. I have to go take a guitar over to UPS. So
me wrap up with a couple of quick questions. What did you have to unlearn to grow?
I had to disconnect part of my brain. Um, to be able to grow, I had to come to grips with the fact that um, I wasn't going to be a typical rock star.
Yep,
I chased it. I did South by Southwest, CMJ, when I had Dreaming in Stereo, but I realized that that just wasn't for me.
right.
And it could happen, but
Yeah,
honestly, if I die and people say he was a really, really good musician who did a lot of really great things, I'd rather them say that than say he was the guy who wrote "I'm Too Sexy," or
right,
he was, Fernando Perdomo, best known for "I'm Not Going to Move to L.A." or "Smile."
right.
I would like my story to be more broad than just the guy that did that.
Well, you're certainly continuing your legacy. I mean, you've expanded with all of the Waves records and
Yeah,
then the Clouds records. Maybe Rain, we were talking about Nick Drake earlier, to
yeah,
it'll be the next year will be the Rain records, you know?
yeah. Well,
There's a
I would have
certain
to move for that.
there's a certain part of you though that is a fan forever of music. And I think that people when they get in the business of music, sometimes they lose that. How have you managed to protect that part of yourself that first fell in love with music and still had that um, alive and well?
Feelings, the feelings that music gives me.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the smiles, the million smiles, uh, the joy when I discover someone new,
The goosebumps.
the goosebumps, that feeling of saying, "Hey, you should check out Laura Snowden,"
Yeah.
or "Hey, you should check out Improvement Movement," or my latest discovery. I just discovered a band called Pearl and the Oysters.
Yeah. Really cool stuff. Improvement movement I learned through you posting
Check this
videos.
out. Check this
It's
out.
amazing. Yeah.
I discovered Pearl and the Oysters. I went to go see their big show, and I wrote them, and they said, "Wow, what an honor to have a musician like you in the audience."
Wow.
They knew me because they were a little bit jealous that I produced that one free design track, and they loved what I did. And I immediately put them in touch, and I said, Sandy, Ellen Dedrick, this is Pearl and the Oysters. Meet these two people, and now they're talking.
I love that. And you have
Because that
that connection thing is not like what can I get out of this? It's like that person needs to meet that person.
absolutely, you know what?
It's an altruism to it.
Uh, life is too short to keep everything to yourself.
I love that.
If I could make a connection that leads to somebody's eternal happiness, that makes me just as happy as if somebody did that for me.
I love
And you
that.
know what? I believe in karma.
Yep.
I believe in doing good things will lead to good things. And also I believe that making music is never a bad thing. As long as the music doesn't have any hatred in it or it doesn't have any evil connotations, as long as the music comes from the heart. And the last thing I'm going to say is there's two bank accounts. There's the one in your pocket and the one in your heart. And the one in your pocket could go away and you're going to have to sell some crap. But as long as the one in your heart is full, you'll be happy.
I love that. Well, Fernando, thank you for making not just yourself happy, but so many people happy. And I want to at least mention your shirt, the Sergeant Pepper's. Uh,
Soundtrack. Ho ho
Come
ho!
on, man. I got the
Oh my God!
poster.
Hold on. Do that again. Do that again.
I got the poster, man.
Screenshot. I gotta screenshot this. This is great.
There you
Okay,
go.
that's it. When that's when two weirdos. That's when you got to match your crazies, right?
I love it. Well, thank you so much and stay curious, my friend. I will see you very soon. All right.
Absolutely. Have a great day,
Appreciate your
Robbie.
time. You too.
And
Take care.
man, again, happy holidays and happy Hanukkah.
Hey, to everybody, to you and yours.
Take care, man.
Bye.